And I am Stephanie Valle in the ABC 7 Alert Center with breaking news. New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham is about to speak. Let's listen in.
Was made by Jilly Oyenke, and she is a member of IATSE, that local union, and works, as many of you know, the film industry is a place that she does incredible work and leadership. So, Jilly, thank you very much for this mask. It means a lot to me, and I wear it, and it keeps me safe, and I appreciate that, and it makes sure that I am keeping my colleagues as safe as I can. So we're going to start in the same way that we have been. This one's going to do this press conference update. We want to make sure that we're talking about our next phase of plans and talking about where we head this summer, and to give people a sense about, I promise that, and we've been modeling and looking at data every day and tracking our cases and watching how our business partners and our social distancing and isolation has really made an impact, and what else we need to do to slow the spread of this deadly virus. So first, let's talk about the number of cases that we have. So today we have 2,210 positive COVID-19 cases. We have 39 new today. We have 121 total hospitalizations. Of that number, 33 are on ventilators. Unfortunately, we also announced 6 new deaths today, bringing that total to 71. And again, the only way I can offer my condolences and to make sure that these families and individuals who are affected by the loss of their colleagues and their friends know we mourn with you. You know, the personal information about all of these cases is private. I don't get access to it. No governor should or does. But I do want people to know that we mourn with you. It is incredibly hurtful to know that we lose anyone in this state to this unfair, deadly, invisible threat and virus. And we're doing everything in our power to reduce that number and to stay the course to the highest degree. What we're going to do that's a little bit different this time is I typically talk about what's new, what's happening, and I am going to do that because I think we have some both good news to share, and we want to give people a sense about what the next month is going to look like in the state. And as we prepare to do that, I want you to hear from Secretary Kunkel, who's going to talk a little bit about testing. I'm going to do a quick highlight because for those of us who spend too much time hearing from or engaging in national as the first state or the second state, your state, because of the work that you've done with social distancing, has allowed us to expand testing much earlier than the rest of the country in what we're calling surveillance, which means targeted populations so that we know what the prevalence is. And I want to really thank the leadership of Secretary Kunkel, who has leveraged that opportunity in any number of ways and places. And as you will hear from Dr. Grace, I think it's really having an impact by giving us the kind of information where we know where risk is and what we're doing that's mitigating risk so that we can continue to support those kinds of measures. So thank you, Secretary Kunkel, and please give us a testing update.
Good afternoon, everyone. The strategy that the Department of Health and the state of New Mexico used to expand testing, it really had 3 components. First, we attempted to expand our sites, and I have a slide, there we go. On March 15th, we only had 7 sites statewide. But as of today, we have 64 sites in all 30. An important initial strategy of ours was to make testing available throughout the state. Secondly, we began to focus it on communities, and I'll talk more about that later, but we moved into a more focused approach. And then we had to increase our lab capacity, and I cannot stop thanking all of our private partners for assisting us with this. We now can test over 5,000 people a day when we are at our full capacity. Department of Health could not do that without TriCor and the national labs and our other partners who have assisted us to get there. But the strategy we moved into after we established the 60 sites around the state was to focus on targeted communities, particularly long-term care sites, long-term care facilities, some congregate settings, and tribal communities. We have been targeting these communities for weeks. We've been specifically in 35 nursing homes doing targeted testing for sometimes in response to a positive case, and sometimes just to be proactive. But all long-term care facilities have received direction from the Department of Health to conduct surveillance. We provide the kits, we provide assistance, but all 74 nursing homes are now conducting their own surveillance. We also moved into tribal communities in a bigger way. We are out in 16 of 23 of our tribes. We have conducted testing. We will continue to partner with Albuquerque area and the IHS to get sufficient supplies and partnership to continue that. And last weekend, we began testing asymptomatic essential workers at the direction of the governor, and I believe we were one of the first states to do this. So over the weekend, we tested in Albuquerque, and since the weekend, we have been in every community under the 4 regions of the Department of Health, testing particularly grocery store workers, construction workers, healthcare workers, and people who are in direct contact with the public and are at most risk for contracting COVID without having symptoms. So we appreciate everyone's voluntary cooperation with this. It was a bit of a surprise in some communities. We could have done a better job perhaps of preparing you. We are deliberately testing asymptomatic people to see if there is silent COVID in our communities that we're not aware of. So this is moving on very well, our testing strategies. Our goal is to proactively and aggressively continue to test these at-risk communities and stem the virus. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. So now we're going to go to modeling. Typically, I give an update about what's been accomplished in a week, but we have a lot of, I think, new things to talk about. So I want us, and the reason we have some new things to talk about in the state is because the data that we're using, as you've heard before, we use New Mexico-specific data. We use it every single day. We're using public health, scientific, and medical expertise in evaluating, including we've got both Lanel and Sandia Labs and private sector laboratories engaged in this modeling so that we really know what is happening every day and what we can predict that will happen tomorrow. And so I'm going to Dr. Grace to talk about that modeling and show you some new data points, and then I'll get back to the rest of our presentation, and then we'll go to questions. Dr. Grace.
Thank you, Governor. I'm going to start actually just by saying that I have some good news today, and then there's still some areas of concern. And hopefully we'll be able to see both and understand both, and we can hold both of those in front of us as we make decisions going forward for New Mexico. First slide, you've seen many times. That's the number of tests, so let's go to the next one. We're already over 40,000 tests, and I'm going to talk in a minute about how wonderful that is. Let's keep going. And one more. These will be available online for you. But I want it, next slide. This is on the right. You can see the number of cases in each county, and the darker colors mean more cases. We still have 6 counties that are gray, which means we don't have any reported or identified cases, but that's very different than being able to say there really aren't any cases at all, because we're now knowing through the literature, and it's controversial this week, but that for every 1 case we know about, there may be 40, 50 or more cases out there. And so that's something that we look at with our modeling. You can see McKinley County is the dark red county on the left. This is the infection frequency. And in fact, the rate of infection in McKinley County per person is 7 times higher than Bernalillo County at the present time. And so we're very concerned about the northwest corner of the state, just like we were last week, and we'll say more about that. We've talked a lot about doubling time, which is on the next slide. That's the amount of time it takes for a certain number of cases to double, but it's over the entire period of the infection. So this isn't the whole period. We cut off 12 days there. We started at 1.9. Now we're at 5.3. I think one of our senators sent me a question, but if I count back 10 days, it looks like our cases have just doubled in the last 11 days, and that's true. So our doubling time is really slowing, is really lengthening. That's really important. It means slowing the spread of infection. But we just use the epidemiological standard math that allows us to compare our doubling times to other states and other countries. So if you're doing math on your own, good for you. but it is, that's why it comes up 5.3, because it's from the beginning until now. More good news. The next slide is a new slide, and it just maps out for you 5 different counties. You can see Bernalillo County on the top. If you look to the right, the blue line, and you can see Santa Fe County on the right, on the bottom line there, green. And you can see 3 other counties, McKinley, Sandoval, and San Juan, the ones that we got our eyes on. What you notice about the green line is it has become almost flat. The number of cases is hardly growing at all. You can also see Bernalillo County on the top is getting there. So Santa Fe on the bottom, almost flat. Bernalillo on the top, about to flatten out. But the 3 counties in the middle in the Northwest still growing in their number of cases. And so we have a great trend on the bottom line there, a worrisome trend in the middle 3, and an encouraging trend for Bernalillo County on the top. This slide, and if we go to the next slide, this is the flattening the curves slide, and you'll see a squished down set of curves there that used to be quite high. And if you remember our flattening the curve model, we had a big high peak there, but this means what we're seeing here, and I'm going to walk through what each line means, or most of them anyway. What we're seeing is that we actually have flattened the curve for the whole state of New Mexico. Now, that isn't true for every region, and you already have probably figured that out. But let's talk, let's just look at the solid blue line going straight across. That's the number of available medical beds. And then the solid blue line on the bottom is the number of medical beds we'll need over time. We're still working on that x-axis and the timing of this, so don't take that literally. We'll have an updated version of that soon. But you can see we're going to have enough beds. The next one is ventilators, the red line there that comes off at about 450. We're actually finding ways to outfit new ventilators and use other machines to give us more ventilators. But our need for ventilators, given this flattened curve, looks like it will not be exceeded. And the only place where we appear to still may have some risk of going over is needing more additional ICU beds. Now, I want to issue a warning before everybody goes out in the street and starts celebrating. First, don't go out in the street and start celebrating, stay at home. And second is, this is just 1 week of data. And someone asked me this morning, like, last week it looked really bad and this week it's looking really good. How can that be? Well, one of the advantages of exponential curves is, while they go up exponentially, they also come back down exponentially. And so we are seeing some fairly rapid improvement here that's encouraging. But I think we need to wait, see what we get for our data next week, see if this holds out. But this is very encouraging news from a whole state view of things. To give you some examples of the sort of nerdy data that the modeling team, our 25 experts.
And we are listening to the Secretary of Health Services over in New Mexico giving an update with the governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham. They do have 2,210 total positive cases, 139 today. And they also have 33 on ventilators, 121 total hospitalizations. And as for the dead, 71 in total, 6 new deaths announced today. But we were just listening to the Health Services Secretary say that they are seeing a flattening of the curve when it comes to hospitalizations as well as positive cases.